welcome to part 9 of Pokemon Yellow. Last part, we got some things done. We move along, we moved along the story, and in this part, we'll be taking on Rock Tunnel. And as mentioned by a few NPCs, Rock Tunnel is completely dark. So as you see, we have Drowsy, and Drowsy can learn Flash. So make sure that you again find a Pokemon who can learn Flash and use it, and it illuminates the entire area. Now I could have shown my skills, and you can honestly see kind of the pathway of how it goes, of going through it without having to use Flash and keeping one of my Pokemon, but it's okay. I just want. I can't speak. We showing off the entire game and as it was intended, so we use Flash. Here we have a new trainer type, as well as the fact that it's in the way, a Pokemaniac. Pokemaniacs, I really don't know what kind of Pokemon they have. They're just crazy as fuck. And he looks crazy in his sprite. Look at him again. But we also are trying to train Oogway, and because Oogway is our new party member, and we're going to keep him on our team. So he's not powerful enough to be able to take on things on his own. So we're going to do the old bait and switch method of having him up in the front of the party, switching him out so somebody else can take him down, and then he gets the experience. Here we also have a Slowpoke, and a Slowpoke is water psychic. So water, and that's all I have to say about that. Damn, man. Such a great commentator, such a great LPR. And I just can't wait till we learn Thunderbolt, because Thunderbolt is it's much more powerful than Thundershock. Honestly, you have Thundershock for a while. I believe in either 25 or 26, he learns our Jolts will learn Thunderbolt, and it will just make things a lot more easier. But see how Oogway is just raking in the experience. So yeah, this is the other cave aesthetic, a much more longer dungeon. I don't know if that's right English, but a longer dungeon. So prepare yourself. And I also use Repel. I believe I also used the Repel, but because we have Oogway in the front, I kind of made it useless. But I wanted to make sure Oogway gets his experience and he gets to catch up with his fellow brethren in our creed. So that was kind of like a mishap on my fault, or on my part. But at the end of the day, I also want him to also evolve and get more powerful. We're also leveling up Jolts, making sure that, because Pikachu can only actually, I'll get to that when we get to Celadon, but just keep training up Pikachu. And this is where I thought I was gonna say this is where I use the Repel to no use, but no, we're just healing up our bonds. And as you heard, as the music restarts, I'm cutting out a lot of battles. For some reason, they come a lot. Like I don't even know what to say. I didn't come here, but I will fight you. Alright, so let's fight. You're not gonna win. And you're trying to get Zuko to be the best, so we're throwing out Zuko. Unfortunately, we get hit with a Stun Spore, and Stun Spore immediately paralyzes you, and paralyze again lowers your speed, so it just prolongs the battle even more. And because Ember is so weak, it's not gonna do that much damage, but it's the only fire type move that we have at the moment, and the only fire type that can beat this. Obviously super effective. Trust me, guys. Again, trust me. Zuko will come through. Zuko will come through. Just trust me. Oogway is growing, growing, and Oogway learned the water gun. So you'll be able to take out rock types, ground types, fire types. But he's still pretty strong, so he's not going to be able to do that much. And right there is a case of us getting fully paralyzed, so we won't be able to do shit. Won't be able to do shit. I just kind of like slurred my words, blah 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 blah. So, luckily, we inflict a burn. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but burn is kind of like poison. After each of at the end of the Pokemon's turn, or at the end of your turn, it will do a little bit of damage. But unlike poison, it reduces the attack of your Pokemon, your physical attack. And that's another thing too. So we're like 9 parts in, and I didn't explain this, but there's 2 types of attacks and defenses. At least in Gen 1, there's physical, which would most likely be like attacks that would make contact, and then there's special, which are like, you know, water, thunder, and all that stuff like that. But Oogway is evolving. We have a Wartortle, Mewtwo, Tentacruel, Aerodactyl. But as mentioned before, you know, Oogway evolved. Yeah, so there's 2 types. So there's physical and special, and that also applies to defense as well. So when you see moves that like raise or lower special, that's just raising the special attack or special attack and defense of the Pokemon. So moves, for example, I raise the special attack on Pikachu, and it uses Thunderbolt. It's gonna do a bit, way more damage. And starting with Gen 2, that's when they split into special defense and special attack, and things get a bit more balanced, at least at the time. Here, I'm using Oogway to take down the Hiker because Water Gun is going to take them down like crazy, and Oogway can get all the experience. So we won't have to do the bait and switch method anymore. I'm a better technician. Something, whatever he said. Hit me with your best shot. Yeah, they all sound the same. They're the Hiker brothers. We're bikers. We're bikers. If anybody watched, or we're hikers. We're hikers. If anybody watched Little Kuribo and Yu-Gi-Oh, the Brit series, then you know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm lost in here. Maybe I'm lost in here. Let me stop doing that because that's actually hurting my voice. But there is where I use the repel. And it kind of helps. But there are, I believe, some level 20s. So Oogway is not at that level yet. But he will be. And here we have another Hiker. Why am I showing this? He was in the way, but I think I could have gotten around him. So why am I showing this? Oh, we have a new Pokemon. Duh. Sorry, guys. So we have Graveler, which is the evolved form of Geodude. And there's, again, oh, Gravelers are also known for using Explosion, so be careful of those. Graveler and a few other types, I can get to them when we get to them, but it's also one of the Pokemon that you need to trade with somebody else in order for them to evolve to the final form. So the final form of the Geodude line is Golem. And you won't be able to get a Golem unless you trade your Graveler to somebody else and they trade it back. Other Pokemon are the Abra line, so Abracadabra, and then it goes to Alakazam. The Ghastly line, Ghastly, Haunter, Gengar. And I believe, the Machop line, so Machop, Machoke, and then Machamp. So you have to find somebody else who can trade with you, and then that's how you'll be able to get the final form of those evolution lines. I know how I said I was going to get to it later, but I just immediately thought of each Pokemon as I was saying it. And here we have somebody who has Jigglypuff who used Sing, and of course it hits because of course my luck is bad, and of course I can't ever be lucky and not get hit with it. And again, it lasts for longer than it needs to be. Wake the fuck up. And also another thing too, in the first generation, when you're asleep and exactly, just you already know how I felt. But when you use fight and you're asleep, like you're asleep obviously, and then when you wake up, that takes up a turn. But if you're waking in future generations, if you're waking up, you'll be able to use the move in that same turn. So that's something I love that they changed. I think it starts with Gen 2. Because it's just annoying that you hit fight and then you have the move ready, but you wake up and you don't use it. Well, it doesn't allow you to do that here, but you know what I'm saying. So, as I mentioned in previous parts, don't be like me. Get awakenings. Just get things that can help heal your Pokemon of status ailments, because it just prolongs battles. And it's using Defense Curl, which raises its defense, but fortunately, Water Gun and the type are special moves, so that defense ain't doing really anything against our Water Gun. And throwing out a Pidgey. Again, something we've never... And it honestly should be a Pidgeotto by now. That's another thing I didn't mention. When your Pokemon is evolving, like for example when you saw Squirtle evolve into Wartortle, or Uguay evolve into Wartortle, you can stop its evolution by pressing B, and it will stay the Pokemon that you want. Like you can stay a Squirtle. There are some advantages to it. It can learn moves sooner, but it will not have that stat increase that it would, or that stat buff it would get if it was evolving into a stronger form. So it's up to you if you want to do that. In Gen 1, there isn't really that much reason to do that because the move pool is pretty small. In future generations, I think, I'm trying to think off the top of my head. Yeah, there's some reason to do that. But then there's also just more moves for it to learn. And they kind of adjusted it so that it can learn it. And that's something I enjoy. We have another hiker in the way, so we have to fight them. And luckily, Uguay, again... And Water Gun is pretty weak, guys. Like, it's good for maybe earlier in the game, but it's pretty weak. But since Uguay is around the same level as them, it's evolved into Wartortle, so its stats are pretty decent. Couple that with the fact that Geodude is rock and ground, it's going to take them out. And the same thing with Graveler, so there's no issue with that. And look at that, it's the evolved form and we're still taking them out, so we gotta like that. Oops, outmuscled. I love doing that voice, but let me stop because it really is hurting my voice. So I say so a lot. I know, guys. Squirtle and Bulbasaur actually are the MVPs of this dungeon, just because grass and water are super effective against rock and ground. So you also be able to run into Geodudes and Onyxes and stuff like that. So use them to train if you want to. Again, train, guys, because it gets harder as we go. Pokemon is not a hard game, but it's still, like, if you don't do anything about training your Pokemon, then it will be difficult for you. And that's honestly how I was when I was younger. Because I didn't really train, and I didn't know that much about HMs and how to go about stuff, I was a really dumb child. But because of that, I didn't really, you know, was able to get past. I think I got past Misty. I was able to get past Misty, but I couldn't get past. I didn't know how to get past Cerulean City and all that stuff. But when I played like somebody I knew saved file and they were at like Lieutenant Surge or whoever, I didn't think of training their Pokemon and being and able to beat Lieutenant Surge. So I believe Lieutenant Surge was around the time I could Lieutenant Surge was somebody I couldn't get past, and that's where I stopped when I was younger. And it wasn't until I got a little bit older where I was able to put two and two together and use my HMs and go this way and that way. So that's something I had trouble with a lot of games too. And as you see right there, the artist tried to use poison powder against our Power, but because Power is poison type or half poison type, it cannot get poison. I believe also ground types cannot get poison either, but I could be wrong with that. I know in future generations, steel type cannot get poison as well. Maybe. Comments, do your thing. Let me know. I'm a casual, guys. I'm casual. Yeah, I brought that back after like 5 parts. Yeah. And before we exit, oh, the reason why I'm also just going to these empty dead ends is just to show that there's nothing there. I believe in the remake there are items there that you can get. So as I mentioned in like part 1 with the Verdant Forest, I was showing, or part 2, 3, where we were in Mount Moon, I was showing things off, and there was things that wasn't there. I think in the remake they fixed that, or not fixed it, but they put stuff there. And before we get to safety, of course there are trainers here who get in our way, always want to fight, and just make life so much difficult for us. You guys can't just let us by, you know, let us by and get to the next town without you having to try and kill us. Come on now. But here I'm showing off Pidgeotto, which is again the evolved form of Pidgey. Strong, but not strong enough to withstand a Thunder Shock. And here is where we learn Thunderbolt. Yeah. So getting rid of Thunder Shock because there's no need for it because we have Thunderbolt. So now we'll be able to do a lot more damage with our electricity. And because of Stab, it's gonna do even more damage. And haha, 420 plays it. So taking care of the rest of the trainers at the end of Rock Tunnel, making sure that we get our experience up. Here we find a Max Ether. So again, be mindful of these little like kind of weird placed rocks or trees or just squares, tiles. They might have an item there. And before we get to our next town, there's somebody who's in the way that we can't get. Well, we could have gone around. We could have gone around like we do, but I wanted to make it a bit more engaging, more actiony. We have a Pokemaniac. Our Pokemaniac has a Cubone. And we have a Water Gun to take care of it because water beats ground. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm silent. I can't even speak. I'm sorry I was silent there for a bit. But, you know, just taking care of some things. You're able to take care of this Slowpoke with no problem. They do No Confusion, which is a Psychic type move, and Psychic are strong against Poison type, so keep that in mind. But luckily, Bulby is a tank, and we're able to get through that. And after being that Pokemaniac, we enter Lavender Town. And we're also reaching the end of part 9, so I'll see you guys in part 10 where we get to Lavender Town.